When my grandmother passed away, I was left with what seemed like an endless assortment of old, dusty dolls. They were scattered across the attic, tucked in dark corners, and lined up neatly on the shelves in her dimly lit home. She had been obsessed with them her entire life, collecting them, restoring them, and keeping them as though they were family. I never understood the appeal, but after her death, no one else wanted to go near them. I had to clean out the house, and that's when the unsettling memories of those dolls came flooding back. I remember the way their glassy eyes seemed to follow me around the room when I was little, how their porcelain smiles always looked too perfect. There were always whispers about them in the family, warnings that we shouldn't mess with her collection. But who listens to family folklore when you're an adult, right? One night, while sorting through the attic, I came across a particularly worn-out doll. It was an old-fashioned thing with a tattered dress and missing hair. But its face was unlike the others. It seemed almost too lifelike. I felt a strange compulsion to touch it, despite every instinct telling me not to. When my fingers brushed against the doll's cold porcelain skin, something shifted in the air. The room grew colder, the silence thicker. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I heard strange sounds coming from the attic, soft, faint giggles, followed by a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. But when I went up there, the dolls remained motionless, their glass eyes locked in place. The next day, I decided to get rid of the dolls. All of them. I wasn't about to leave them in that house to haunt someone else. But when I picked up the doll I'd touched the night before, it felt different, heavier, more alive. As if it had been waiting for me to finally hold it. I tried to throw it out, but the moment I placed it in the trash, I heard it again. The dragging sound. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the attic. It was coming from my living room. I rushed to the source of the noise and found that every single doll from my grandmother's collection had moved. They were all in a perfect circle, facing me. I froze. There was no way I had moved them. No one else had been there. And yet, there they were, staring at me with those cold, unblinking eyes. Later that night, I fell into a restless sleep. I woke to the sound of whispering, soft, childish voices, giggling and calling my name. I sat up in a panic, but the room was dark. I was about to turn on the light when I felt a small, cold hand on my shoulder. The doll I'd touched, the one I had tried to throw away, was sitting on my bed. Its porcelain face was now cracked, and its mouth was moving, whispering my name. The dolls were alive, and they weren't happy that I'd tried to escape them. The last thing I remember is the feeling of tiny hands crawling up my legs, my arms, my neck, as I screamed in terror. But no one heard me. When they found me the next morning, there was no sign of struggle. No broken windows, no forced entry. Just me, lying in the bed, pale and cold, with a collection of dolls neatly arranged around me, each one holding a piece of my soul.